Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's me, Dr. Marla Goldberg, with another episode of Guided Spirit Conversations. Okay, before we start the show, I do want to ask for prayers. There's so much world strife that's going on right now. The world needs your prayers. It needs your light. It needs your energy. Let's see if we can band together and do something energetically to shift what's happening, to have some more harmony and peace going on in this world and for the planet. Okay, well, thank you for supporting me with that. Now, I want to introduce my guest for today. She's Dr. Susan Jamieson, and I'm so excited. Let me tell you about Susan. She is a medical doctor integrating mindfulness, energy, and conscious awareness in wellness. Using Be Your Own Light concept, she combines her medical intuitive skills with holistic medicine, then adds the teaching of techniques using quantum light fields and energy. A Celt from Scottish Highlands who lived in China for 30 years, Susan seamlessly weaves modern neuroscience with ancient Celtic wisdom and Eastern philosophy techniques. Oh my God, this is amazing. This enables connection with your inner light and that of others, increasing joy, peace, well-being. This integration has led to her becoming a doctor to Sir Elton John, Sir Mick Jagger, Green Day, Fergie, and the Black Eyed Peas, the Eagles, and more. Okay, love the Eagles. We'll have to talk Eagles when we get off of this. Dr. Susan has authored 2 books, and I am so excited to bring you on the show. Welcome, Dr. Susan Jamieson.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love the fact that you started with prayers for all this strife, in the world. I have set up a Celtic light healing group, and it started quite recently when they had all this awful stuff in Africa, in Libya and stuff,
Yes.
and then earthquake in near Marrakesh. That's what started me on this, because I thought I could teach other people they want to help, right? How to send energy and the traditions for doing this.
And I think it's so powerful. It's so important. I mean, you can ask for peace in your meditation, and it just raises the level of energy, sending peace. So we can meditate, we can pray, but if we're asking for the same thing, it's like each of us putting a grain of sand onto a plate, making it a huge mound to help others.
Exactly. And if there's lots of techniques. If we all use the same technique, I think that also magnifies it.
That's true. So at the end of the show, you will be able to get Dr. Susan Jamieson's information on our blog, and you can find her website and everything else so that we could sign up for your, what do you call it, Susan?
Oh, well, that one's the Celtic Light Healing Facebook group, but that's not the main thing I do. I started this a month ago because I was so moved watching the TV. It was just so moving, right?
Yes.
I do sessions and I do online courses.
Well, this could be another one. So let's see what we can do in terms of gathering interest, because I think you're right. If we can all do the same methodology, it will bring it up. Now, it can still bring it up for people who say, no, this isn't my thing. It's okay. You do you. But it still helps. Anything you do towards the well-being of the people and the planet itself can't go wrong. Like, there's no wrong in it.
There's no wrong. Exactly.
Exactly. So, okay, I want to start the show I have to ask. Now, I read something where your aunt moved to China at the same age as you did to bring light to the country. And I don't know, I know you said somewhere in your 20s that you moved to Hong Kong.
Yeah, I should stop telling people that because I don't know how old I am, right? But the thing is, I moved here when I was 28, really on the basis of meeting someone at a party who said their friend worked in Hong Kong, which is pretty random. I didn't know one person, so wish I bought a Lonely Planet. It was pre-internet. Didn't know it was hot, didn't know this book Chinese, knew nothing. And I got a job in treating tuberculosis, which was, of course, a huge deal 100 years ago, but
Right.
strangely, it's still a big deal in some places. And what I didn't know, because I just thought I landed there randomly, was that my great great aunt, at the same age as me, from the same area in Scotland, as a single lady, which was more unusual then, went to be a missionary in China. And so I think in our own way, we both feel that we're spreading the light.
Well, and you are. I mean, definitely you are. And we're not going to say what year you went to China. We'll just keep it at your
I was
age.
in my 20s. I was in my 20s. But you know what? I believe there's a resonance in the light of our DNA. It's one of my big themes. Our DNA is not just about inheritable traits. There's a resonance in the frequency of the light. And I think we stand on the shoulders of our forebears and our ancestors.
We do. I totally agree with you. But it's interesting how, like, your great great aunt went to, Asia, to help spread the light, to be a missionary. Here you are spreading the light. You're not being a missionary, but you're being of service. The same is the
We
same.
try. And she was also
Yeah.
a nurse. And, she went into Japanese occupied China to actually nurse her friend. She nursed Eric Liddell. He ran the 1 minute mile, right? Eric Liddell,
Wow.
as he died in Hong Kong in a prisoner of war camp. So it's quite interesting, that whole bit of history.
That is interesting in how you got there. So when you were there, now you're a medical doctor. Did you get your medical degree? This is Western medicine.
Yeah, I graduated in medicine in Glasgow, which is actually I think it's the third oldest university. It's a really old university. And I spent some time in the US. I went to Harvard when I was 21, and I must say, had a ball. So I've always been really fond of Americans from this experience, because I thought they were all wonderful. And then went back to Scotland, then came to Hong Kong. And I worked in the hospital doing tuberculosis as a chest doctor.
Okay.
And funnily enough, they used to put them all in. You see them pictures in swimsuits in Swiss sanatoriums, and they were like in the snow, but they were bathing in the sun, because they have this idea that it was healing. Well, we now know that light does heal tuberculosis, so that was accurate. You didn't know why they were doing it, but it was right.
But can you imagine being in a bathing suit surrounded by snow, laying there, like saying, "Come on, son, get me to heal me"?
Yeah, I think it was quite nice, although they're probably a bit sick. I don't know. Anyone who could afford to go there was probably okay. So anyway, I'm a Western medical doctor, and then I became, I trained as a family doctor. But then I became very holistic, and much more holistic in my medical practice, and quite spiritual.
Now I read that you were a medium when you were a child. Or medical intuitive as a child, that you were able to have an idea of what was going on with somebody you're with.
I was a very intuitive sort of psychic child, I would say more. I would have a knowingness, and I was known to be a little bit different like that. And I could manifest things. Like if I was in a quiet country road, I wanted a ride, a car would appear. So just in my quiet little way, it's very close to animals, dogs and horses, very good with them, but maybe not so good with other people.
Well,
Well,
they're
never
so
heard of me.
unconditional. I mean, come on,
Never
horses
so
and
many of
dogs.
them.
Well, it happens their way. So so you went more holistic, but was there a catalyst? Was there
Yeah.
something that triggered?
Well, it's something really funny, actually. I was totally normal, conservative doctor, I think. And then, I got really bad asthma, which I now know was just stress related. And I was actually taking those machines, nebulizing myself 3 times a day at work.
Wow.
And but I was the radio doctor. This is 26 years ago. I was the radio doctor in Hong Kong, and I drove. You used to drive into the radio show in those days across Hong Kong Park, and I met this radio psychic, and I never even met a psychic in my whole life, but she was really funny on the radio. She had me, almost crashed my car listening to her. And she told me she was really hilarious. And she told me all these things about your heart chakra. This was new information to me. And she said, "Oh, it's your heart chakra damaged." And she worked on it. And of course, then I was so interested, and you learn everything.
Yep.
And then, spent a lot of time in India. But of course, I'm in China, actually. So I also found out about Chinese medicine and Taoism. I'm a natural Taoist, actually. Taoist people were very connected to the land, and nature-based, gentle people like Celts. Well, except when they were warriors, of course.
Well,
And
you have you have your Celts that were warriors, but then you have your Celts that were,
yeah,
caretakers of the land and the people.
yeah. So that's how I got into it because I was sick, and then I realized all my patients. I was big referrer to physiotherapy, but that they were getting better when I referred to the craniosacral therapist, who was actually a very spiritual lady, for just the most obscure problems, would get better. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So my practice changed a bit too. Before I knew it, I was the first holistic practice in Hong Kong with Chinese acupuncturist, psychologist, and craniosacral therapist, and me.
Wow. That's quite a combination. And what a powerful group of individuals working on different ways, but for the same betterment of that one individual.
Honestly, I just think you could sort out any problems with that little group of people. Really effective. So that was how I got started, and I got more, more knowledgeable, more spiritual, and then because I've always been an intuitive, but I didn't know I was, and I'm sure this is a common story. I just thought everyone could do it. Um, and the patients don't really know, I don't need to tell them.
Right.
Think I'm very, oh, she's very good, she's very quick, very smart, something like this. So I thought, well, I'll start teaching people how to do this, but not just doctors, not just MDs, other people, osteopaths, psychologists, naturopaths.
Well, let's talk about how your intuitive ability is able to help guide you with your clients because there is, whenever you do anything energetically, you're being guided. You're running energy, but as you're doing that, you're opening up and being able to take in information, which helps you, go to that pinpointed area or areas that somebody needs help with. Is that
Oh, yeah, you're so right. I think when you've been doing it for a long time, you're hardwired to it. My office is set up for the energy, so I don't really do it so intentionally anymore. It just happens. But I believe, and I teach people this, that I'm actually accessing their higher self. So I don't think I get information from Mars or the Archangel Michael, right? I think I'm accessing their higher self for this information. And that may be their spirit or their soul, because I don't want to get into all these differences. But more than their mental bodies and more than their consciousness would know about, because people do have an inner wisdom. They're in it, they do have that.
they
The inner
do?
wisdom, the higher self that really does know.
Well, and it's true. It does know. I know in what I do, like some of the modalities I work with, I have to connect with my client's high self to work with my high self because it's like that telephone game. I don't know if you had that in Scotland and Glasgow, but you say something to somebody and then by the time it gets around a circle it changes. But it's like your high self would connect with my high self and your high self would talk to my high self and then I'm just a vessel. I just act as like this conduit to the energy and information and I would feel that you would be the same conduit,
Um,
getting the information whether it's conscious or subconscious,
I
unconscious.
am. I'd be honest. I think sometimes the medical side gets in the way because we are taught to put things in little boxes and little diagnostic boxes, really. And I just can't help my brain working like that. I can't help it because I'm a medical doctor. But having said that, people like a diagnosis. They like to be, in a way, they like stuff to be put in a little box. They don't want don't want it to be too vague because they like a treatment plan that's not too vague, whatever that is.
I understand the treatment plan, but one would think that they would, if you're helping them get better, even though it's not a diagnosis, like you have brain fog. Do you need to know what's causing the brain fog to clear the brain fog? Or is there techniques that help you clear the brain fog, not necessarily getting attached to what the diagnosis is?
Look, I absolutely agree. What I do, what I've been doing in my medical office is slightly different to what I do online, because online I feel confident to go into past lives. I feel confident to talk about energy stuff more. So it really a little bit depends what role I'm in, how I kind of act, which I think is fair enough because people have an expectation, right? I mean, I'm happy to really open the floodgates and go into past lives, to go into trauma, other families. I can feel that I feel like it's you feel the threads back with an illness. If someone has a complicated problem or even just abdominal pain or something like this, but they don't know why and they've seen lots of specialists, and I can trace the threads back to the origin. And there are, it's like little threads going back. So I think that's part of, I like to see it like that anyway.
I agree with you that there are threads. I feel that there's cord thread connection though, and sometimes people just don't want to let go of whatever that ailment is because they've used it to benefit themselves somehow.
Yeah.
So they hang on to it. I don't know if you agree with it or not agree with it.
Oh, exactly. And it might be totally subconscious that the hanging on usually is, right? And the
Yeah,
problem about the subconscious is we don't know what's in it. So it's not their fault. They just don't know what's in their own subconscious.
right.
So maybe it's my job to help bring that to the light. And they do call me the light doctor, and my favorite expression is when it's in the light, it's in the light. So this is the value of psychology, maybe, or counseling, because when people realize things, when they shed the light of consciousness onto things, I feel it dissolves. I think the light will dissolve stuff, whatever the stuff may be. Maybe a little bit anyway. The trauma, the stress, let's say, or the baggage. Or and I often do another thing I'm loving is I do a lot of tapping or emotional freedom technique.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good adjunct because being in China, we're really into acupressure points,
Yes.
the beginnings and ends and all the Chinese meridians, which are lines of light. So I see Chinese medicine as being lines of light in the body and points of light.
And don't the Chinese medicine professionals um, they they follow those lines. That's how they do acupuncture, right? They
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
the meridians. They follow the lights to know where to put.
Well, and it's unidirectional, like the lung meridian starts here and it goes down to your thumb, right? That is the direction of it. So maybe you have bronchitis or something like this. You can flush it by doing it the opposite way and then doing it the correct way 3 times. A little bit like direct current electricity. You know how that goes in one direction.
Yes.
And when you're tired, 3 in the afternoon is a really bad time for children or mothers. 4 in the afternoon, you're really a slump. You need to get them all running in the correct direction, and you can do that by pressing the K27 up here. It's just the notch under the
Oh,
collarbone,
I feel
the
okay.
width of index and thumb. Under that notch is your K27. That's the most important acupressure point in the body, but it will also get all your meridians running the right way, which is good, right?
It's really good. So as you were showing, demonstrating, I was doing, and I have to tell you, I moved my hands and I just felt this energy swishing.
Oh, you're really sensitive. That's fabulous. And often what I like is cross the hands, because crossing the hands when you're doing it will help right left brain communication. You know how if you're stressed, we could call it homolateral. You just can't think. I mean, you're looking for your car keys and they're in your hand. That kind of state, and it needs to communicate.
That's so funny. My husband will say, "Do that all the time," because I'm always going, "Where's this? Where's that?" And it's just because I've got so much going on that I'm a little bit of an absent-minded professor, kind of an individual at times. Not always, but sometimes. Um, so you're on this path. You're having techniques. Can you share with us something, an experience with a client that was, going in one direction, and maybe you were like, I don't know, I don't get it, I get it, and then a miracle.
Yeah,
Um,
I really can, because it's the biggest one, and it's more healing than intuition, but I think it's interesting. So I'm doing the graveyard shift, as I call it, in the office. That means 5 o'clock on Friday, and this work is tiring, and I'm burnt out and tired. And then just the type of person I find quite difficult comes in, because he's kind of male, a bit older than me, who obviously thinks that I might be some kind of witch, which is seriously weird considering I'm a very qualified MD. And but he's been to see all these specialists about his headache. So he's had this unbearable headache, and he's had MRIs and CAT scans and seen 3 neurologists. They can't find anything wrong, but in the end of the day, he can't work anymore and he can't sleep hardly because of this headache. And I'm sure he's been asked this question before, and he has, but it didn't really mean anything to the doctors, I think. I said, when did it start? And bear in mind that already I'm not finding this energy easy. I can be quite defensive about people that I think are going to be difficult and critical of me. And that's my personal baggage that I bring in. And, we do all this talk about protecting yourself, right? I mean,
Yes.
seriously. How can you protect yourself when you're merging with people? It's not right. It's rubbish. It's rubbish in that level because we are intermingling our light waves with people when we do these techniques. But anyway, the baggage we bring in does not help, as I said.
Yes.
And I dropped my I must protect myself defensive layer completely when he said, well, actually, it started the day my daughter was killed in a car crash a year ago.
Oh,
And I just dropped my baggage and my heart opened, which it really had not been before, I would say. um, and I wanted to touch him, and I didn't want it to be weird because he was a very conservative engineer. Like hands-on healing for him would be weird. Although, other people you might do that. Well, I said, oh well, I must examine your head, which is funny, right? So I went over and I just put my hand on his forehead and I stood behind him, and I really, it my heart was open, and he looked really amazed and surprised. He said, my headache's gone for the first time in a year. And well, there's not much to say because his headache's gone. So I said, what can you say? Except, oh, well, by then, I'm sure it won't come back, but come back and see me if it does. So that was the end of the consultation because like it's gone and there was not much else to say really. And he didn't have much else to say because he was that type of person.
right.
Um, he couldn't explain it, he couldn't understand it, therefore it wasn't going to be discussed. But I'm quite sure in my own mind that that's the light of the heart. Now we know a lot about the heart's light. It's like 200 times as much as the brain in magnetic energy, huge magnetic energy. Like it's okay to see light as electromagnetic energy in a scientific way. And it's a huge pump here, huge pump of light. Every beat of the heart is enough to light a small fairy light on a Christmas tree, right?
Oh,
Imagine every beat. So what a lot of energy this is. And I think there's a holographic resonance, and healing can occur, let's just say. Now, in different ways with different people, of course, there'll be an explanation. But with him, it's interesting because we were not praying to Jesus. We were not praying to Buddha. We were not thinking of anything like that, okay? I just did it and my heart opened. And I am a healer. And he who did not believe, so this is not like, oh, you have to believe in this for it to work. He didn't even know what it's doing,
right.
got better. So I think those two things are interesting. He didn't know what I was doing, got better. I didn't, on this occasion, invoke any other energies. And I'm quite sure it's the compassionate power of the heart when it can be used in the right way.
I love that, the compassionate part of the heart, because so many people, like you said, you close down their heart. They shut down their compassion. They don't necessarily have to shut it down 100%, but even if it's 50% closed, how do you look at people and circumstances and deal with them? If your heart, has got a shield around it of any amount, it blocks it.
Exactly. Even, yeah. And we've all got our emotional baggage. We're not perfect, right? And that's a big thing that sort of how to clear that, because it really will get in the way in the therapy room. It will. It just
Well,
will.
it'll get in the way of life. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, the average individual who doesn't realize, or even those who are more metaphysical or more enlightened or more ascended, but, they don't necessarily realize what circumstances may shut their heart down, or a percentage, right? Which then, how do they communicate with people and how do their relationships go because of their heart being not 100% open?
Exactly. And that's why I said I was like that at the beginning. I'm quite aware of that fact. And it took a bit of a shock and a horrible story to shake me out of it. So it's interesting.
It is interesting. Did you want to share the story or did you prefer not to? I want
Yeah, of course. No, not at all. That's, I think it's one of my best stories because it flies in the face of you have to believe in things for them to work, or I actually do usually like to invoke maybe the power of Gaia, maybe some angels, guides. I usually like to evoke that when I do healings. um but I use different methods. Like we've just been working with a lung meridian, right?
yes.
So we didn't evoke anyone.
No, but we, as I like to, I believe that we have a plethora of beings on the other side that are waiting to step in and help when asked. So, you might be working on someone and not even realizing, and you might have a conversation in your head, but your beings are hearing it. And if there was a question that needed them to go out and bring some information back to you, that they would.
Right, exactly. That's a really nice point of view. I don't know, you probably don't, but I often forget to ask. Actually, I forget to ask my team to help me. I just forget. I always think I can do everything on my own.
Well, but I think that your team understands you. This is what I'm hearing and saying, that your team understands you and they've been working with you so long that it's like that perfect assistant who knows when to hand a scalpel to a surgeon, right? I mean, they just have this intuitive sense by the way they work. They've been working with them so long that they can almost second guess what they're going to need. And I
Oh, that
say
is
that
so
a loving way.
sweet.
I'm sorry?
That is, that's so sweet. What a nice thing to say. Yeah, I'm sure that's correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know that for myself, there's a certain part and something I do as a daily. It's part of my prayers, but I say, okay, you know what I need, want, and desire. Because I've been talking in my head long enough. Go get it. Go put it out for me. So, and I know that they just do. So if I think about something, I know that they're, if it's for my highest and best good, they're going to go and do something about it, or at least bring me a response.
Well, you see how light comes into everything I do, because we're connected in these light fields, because our DNA produces it, our hearts produces it, enzyme system in our body is controlled by it. We radiate light, so that hits other people. That hits other people, and then you know what happens when my light waves hitting yours right now? It's like two pebbles dropped in a pond, albeit a large distance, but they move at the speed of light, which is at least quite fast, and overlapping patterns form a hologram. Okay, it's for a hologram, really, because it's a standing wave and a hologram. So already we've got three. We've got the power of three here, which is very powerful, actually.
It's very powerful. And,
Yeah.
and and it's wonderful. Now you've got some things I want to sort of like move into. But you do so much. You teach courses online, you do sessions online, you do sessions in person. Let's talk about what's going on in your world, because I think everyone needs to know about what
Yeah.
you're offering.
Yeah, I'm sitting at home editing videos. That's what's going on right now. It's very, very tiring. Actually, my latest offering, I mean, the Celtic Light Healing is really lovely. Facebook group, if you find it. But my real offering is teaching other professionals, nurse to MD, osteopath, naturopath, right, to be more intuitive, because these people already are very intuitive and have a very good innate sense.
Yes.
It's a bit like, playing the piano. Everyone can be taught to play the piano, and some will always be better than others. So everyone can do this, and increasing the skill set to make them better. And, it's not like, oh, I suddenly become a psychic with my patients. There's no replacement for good medicine. And yes, I need to do tests, maybe run tests, but you'll always do the correct test in the beginning. You'll save people time and money, and then look at the treatment. Well, maybe someone needs acupuncture. Maybe they need a psychologist for their stress. This sort of thing. Knowing what is going to help people. Maybe someone's really got gut bacteria, but they don't know that yet, and that's a big problem for them, because that's very related to mental health. So that's the intuition side. I've got it's going to be it's actually 75% off this course in 2 weeks time when I promote it, and it's quite easy, 20-minute modules on different aspects.
Nice. That sounds really interesting. And if people have questions for you, whether it be general or to set up an appointment, that's done, you have the ability to do it through your website.
Yeah, I do private sessions. I call it quantum and matrix rebalancing because whatever you do, I don't use drugs here. Okay, I'm not acting as their MD. I'm using other methods: energy psychology, energy medicine, and my intuition. Whatever you do, you're still working with the light fields. So that's why I call it that. And it's on my website, which is my name. But the one thing that's kind of annoying is if you Google my name, you get the medical practice website because it's much bigger. I've got two websites. So if you see lots of blue, boring stuff, that's the medical one. But if you put my name in as in www.susanjameson.com, then you get my other website with my sessions and online courses.
And Jamieson, just because there's two ways of spelling Jamieson, Jamieson is
Yeah,
Dr. Susan Jamieson's last name, not Jameson. So
not the whiskey,
not
not
the
whiskey.
whiskey.
Even though I am from the Highlands of Scotland, so that would have been quite appropriate.
Well, it could have been, a family name then.
It could have been so yes, it's jameson.com. So, and I do in COVID, it was such a difficult time for everyone.
It
I
was.
do natural solutions for anxiety. And that's based on, well, modern neuroscience, but a lot of Indian, Ayurvedic, and Chinese stuff that I've picked up here in the East.
So people who have issues with anxiety, do you have something that you could show us or tell us how to do, so like maybe a breathing technique to slow down
Yes.
their anxiety or stop their anxiety or get them to a still point with anxiety?
Well, there's various ones. I work with the vagus nerve a lot. So the thing about the vagus is basically the parasympathetic nervous system. In other words, rest and restore, whereas the other one is fight or flight. Now, the good news is you can't have two nervous systems working at one time. So stress is all fight and flight. But if you switch on the parasympathetic, you can't be in the stress. It's not possible, right? So we need to switch that vagus parasympathetic on. Really simple way of doing this, but I'm just going to show you. It looks a bit foolish, really. I always put my hands here to keep my head still, and then you move your eyes to the right as far as you can. So keeping your head still, you move your eyes to the right, and you fix them on a point over there for 1 minute as you breathe calmly through. Always breathe through your nose, and you do it for 1 minute, and then you just go to the left. It's so simple, right? And if your hands get tired, please just take them down. But it's very easy to kind of do that sort of thing and let your head move. Remember, the eyes and the optic nerve are connected to the brain. It's the only part of us that's accessible, only brain part that we can access, let's say, by a simple thing. So, and this is the basis of some psychology techniques. So eye movement is very important, and this will stimulate your vagus, which is 80% of your parasympathetic. That's your gut, your heart rate, your breathing, all these functions that should go on really smoothly, but get disrupted in stress. We get diarrhea, bloating, racing heart, we get constricted chest, right? So that's 80% of the parasympathetic nervous system. The breathing exercises all over the internet. So one that is extremely helpful, I think, and anyone could do is, and that this will really reset your nervous system, because if it's completely out of whack, you've been stressed for ages, you've got to do these 5 minutes 3 times a day. I mean, just do them. It's not the end of the world just spending 5 minutes, is it? Morning, lunchtime, before you go to bed. Another one is just holding on to your abdomen, and you will notice when you breathe out, you're going to suck in your belly to your spine. So as you breathe out, you suck in your belly to your spine, then you breathe in just normally. And this time on the out breath, as slowly as you can, you make the sound S like a snake. So, and you just keep breathing out as you pull your belly in. Keep going, keep going, keep going until you run out of breath and you hold your breath out. Hold your breath out, hold your breath out, hold your breath out. you get what you call air hunger. You think you're going to burst, but then you have to breathe in, obviously. You're not going to die, but you kind of feel you are when you hold your breath.
Right.
So the technique, kind of easier lying down. You breathe out, making the very soft sound of s, and you keep it going and you keep it going, and you only let a small amount of breath out until there's no air there, and then you hold your breath out for as long as you personally can. Then just breathe in and take a few breaths, and then do this again. Do it 3 times. So in between, you just take a few breaths, breathe normal.
Oh, really powerful. I am
This
just,
is extremely powerful. It will completely rebalance your nervous system.
and I love the idea of the eyes, holding the eyes to the right or holding the eyes to the left without moving
Yeah.
your head. I think the most important thing is that somebody will not automatically turn their head to the right and follow their eyes, because that's a
Oh, they
human.
do. No, they do. Everyone does that. But it's got a bit of a history behind this because it's a natural state for animals. Think of, a deer grazing in the wild. They look up and they look around them all the time, don't they? And that reassures them that they're safe and then they can eat. So the digestive system is working because they're grazing, but they reassure themselves by what we call orientating by moving their eyeballs.
Yeah.
Um, so it's kind of something that animals do. And the vagus is 80% of the parasympathetic nervous system.
That's amazing. And if more people who have anxiety could hear about these techniques, which hopefully they will be listening and they will hear it and they will practice it and they'll go, oh my God, I was having an anxiety attack and I tried this technique and whoosh, it went away.
Well, it kind of would work. I said 3 times, but I mean, do it 5 times if you're really feeling bad, and just exactly as I've described. So that's just one of my sections. I mean, this is just a 10-minute section on the vagus. There's so much. There's all these exercises that just might be your thing, whether it's Qigong, whether it's the chakra exercises, talking about mirror neurons, talking about all these different things.
Now, do you have these in your books? These
No, I
exercises?
haven't written a book on this. I guess I could. I've only got 2 books, but one is the light book I wrote 10 years ago, but it's about light in our bodies, and it's full of self-help exercises to actually embody light, because we're beings of light. I mean, we radiate it, right?
We do.
Eat the light in the form of plant or animals that eat plants, because plants get their energy from the sun. So we are very much biologically beings of light, and also, you know, radiating light from our DNA. So it's about how to actually draw down the light. And I say down because I guess this, from the sun. But then we must remember we're on a dynamo, a rotating iron core at the center of this earth is a huge dynamo. And we've got our little heart dynamo in between these two big sources of energy.
And I have to say, and you can take both sources of energy and run them through that beautiful heart piece and bring both and merge it together, both energies, earth energy, earth
Yeah, exactly.
energy
Because
and universal.
exactly, and that's our normal function. Chinese, they have this in Mandarin. Name for China is Zhuanggo, which means Middle Kingdom, and Middle Kingdom is between heaven and earth. And of course, in those days, it was the emperor's job to connect the two, and then that was because they thought that was the way it worked, and that's why the emperor was so special.
I didn't know that piece of history that I was not aware of. That's really interesting. I'm going to stop the questions for a second and I'm going to do it's charity shout out time. And your charity is the Hong Kong Dog Rescue, which is
Yeah.
hongkongdogrescue.com. So let's talk about this
Hong
charity.
Kong Dog Rescue. Well, I mean, first of all, I love animals and dogs, and I think everywhere has their problems with strays, cats or dogs, that end up breeding, unless they spend a lot of money to stop that. So, Hong Kong Dog Rescue, Sally Anderson set up at least 25 years ago, seriously in her back garden. Now they have hundreds of dogs because here, if dogs are found to be wild and not chipped and no one comes for them, the government will put them to sleep, because that's, but that wasn't very nice practice.
Right.
Obviously they were strays or something, and we don't want that to happen anymore. So I really admire people who, I mean, this is hard, spend their lives walking these dogs, looking after the dogs, somehow getting vaccines, feeding, sterilization. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, and it is. It's a problem everywhere. I know when I've been in Bali, they have a wild dog situation that they just run free. Um, but what I'm really happy about is they treat them a little more humanely than some other countries that have wild animals, wild dogs, or just abandoned dogs, whatever they might be.
Yeah. So, I feel children get a lot in this world, basically. That's why it's not a children's charity. I think they do not badly. So this is for doggies. Yeah.
Great. So please check out HongKongDogRescue.com and see how you can help, because and whether it's Hong Kong Dog Rescue or your local shelter or
Right. Local
wherever it
shelter.
is, just help out, because they need food, they need blankets, they need towels, they need bodies to help them
Yes.
work with the abandoned animals, and they need money. So
Yes.
whatever you could spare would be so grateful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
So
that's yeah. Yep.
wherever your heart goes. All right. So Susan, I'm trying to see what I've missed in terms of asking questions. I do have a question. Getting through adversity. Now, I had read about, you were in a terrible car crash. You had a lot of stuff. You came through it, and through it, you learned compassionate traits for yourself, letting you know that you can get through adversity. How?
I have, but my other adversity situation, I mean, that was pretty bad. Couldn't be much worse. 6 hours of facial reconstruction on Christmas Eve. Um, but my other stuff, I've done a lot of humanitarian work. In fact, I'm very excited. I'm being nominated for an award from the thank you, American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong for services to the disadvantaged in Hong Kong. And I have done a lot. I mean, in Hong Kong, but also outside of Hong Kong. So I went Sri Lankan tsunami, if you remember, 2006 or five, and then Tacloban was the largest hurricane in the world, twice as big as Hurricane Katrina in the Philippines.
Yes.
I've always been there the first week after the disaster, invited in random ways by upstairs, basically. I mean, quite random.
It
Local guy.
seems quite random, but was it?
Well, when I say upstairs, it was Spirit. Spirit
Yes.
orchestrated everything, right? Everything. I mean, oh my goodness. And it was tough, like going to this hurricane. There's no tarmac, so planes can't land. And the American military flew us in from Manila Air Base because they've got these planes that can just go up and down, right? They don't need runways. And the Americans had a base there. And I got there with what they needed, which was the only more people die post impact phase than they do in the disaster. That means in the next few months they'll die of waterborne illness, diarrheal illness, chest infections. So it's post impact phase. And I brought them what they needed, which was vaccinations for waterborne disease and antibiotics because they get leptospirosis from rats. So being a doctor, I can buy vaccines. I mean, it's what I do. But the one time, I mean, we just got our flights cleared and everything, and it was not easy. And we got the American military to fly us in. The frigging companies, the big companies like GlaxoSmithKline, Beecham, they all use distributors to distribute the vaccines, and everything's in warehouses, drugs and vaccines. And can you believe this? We explained the need for flying this major disaster. Oh, we're doing stock taking. It's closed for 2 days. And it was just so hard. So it's like, and then we got lots of stuff, and to get it into third world countries is never easy. They wanted the expiry date of every single pill and vaccine. I mean, you've got hundreds, right?
Thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Oh, and then, oh, so much, and then you have to. My vaccines are going to go off if they're not refrigerated. So we get to the American Air Base, and Spanish firefighters and journalists are wanting on this flight. So it's a bit of a competition who's going to get on the flight. The firefighters, this is before any aid. I don't know how the Spanish got there, but they did. They're trying to build water supplies and stuff, the firefighters. Um, Oh, honestly, it's just a bit of a thing and very stressful. And you just have to get through it. And you get there and you're so exhausted and the energy is so horrible, obviously. There's criminals on the streets, they're all looting. And it's dark at 6 because it's on the equator. And you realize there's no electricity. So it's dark. And it's dark at 6. So I've got a candle to try and reach by, relax. There's no electricity to cook. There's no running water. Yeah.
Wow, that's a story. Wow. So were you talking to yourself to give yourself, say, this is gonna pass, everything's gonna be fine? Do you do some self-talk exercises to help you
No,
through these
no,
challenging
because
moments?
I'm really bossy and I'm really positive and I'm really determined. I don't know if you've heard of this expression, a mandate from heaven, but I'm on one and things just clear the way. No, I'm not. I went through a period of, that's a period of fear, funnily enough, on the beach after the tsunami. Um, I had stupidly asked to go to a toilet because, of course, they don't have any because they're all washed away. And they took me to this house wreck, and I heard the waves coming in, and I experienced extreme fear. So obviously, I'm picking up on energy, right? Because
Yes.
I'm not scared of beaches and the waves. So I went through a real. You get this. It's huge. You pick up on
Yes.
the fear is psychically very hard.
Well, it is because you're feeling things, you're feeling fear because you're picking up other people's fear, and it's like, wait a minute, where's this coming from? Because this isn't me.
I am not scared of the waves. I even go swimming in the beach in the dark, and so it was challenging. But to be honest, I'm apart from that one incident, no, I just get on with it. Like, okay, so many dramas in Sri Lanka. We were invited by the local government, but then the main Sri Lankan government banned vaccines given by foreigners. What to do? Got them all. They're not refrigerated because we don't have enough space. Okay, so go and vaccinate this group of foreigners who want the vaccine, and then we just started vaccinating. Then the next day, everything's okay again. It's all up and down, chaotic.
Well, I think it's sort of reflecting what's going on in the area too.
Exactly, and everyone's panicked, and no one knows what to do. And so, it's always third world countries. They're not. I still suppose they're the most organized. Not easy.
Well, it's when people are panicked, they don't, that it's more of a knee jerk reaction rather than a well thought out solution.
Uh, yes, very much so, and
Yeah.
obviously not helping. So, but other than that, I just get on with it. Like, you need to get trestle tables over here. I'm going to get a lineup for vaccines. This is in local schools, Plaza Real, vaccinate the kids because they imagine if everything's destroyed. There's no toilets. There's no running water supplies. People are going to get sick.
Yes, very sick. And they need those vaccinations. They need the help that the people come in to offer, whether it's
Well,
to get,
typhoid and hepatitis A. It's fecal illness. So this is basic. This is very basic. It's obviously not. This is not energy medicine, energy psychology, is it? But still, that's how people die.
yeah, it's true because they will get sick from not having clean circumstances.
Well, there's no fresh water, and the toilets are overflowing. So that's very basic, and humanitarian stuff is very basic like that. But no, I'm not. I just get on with it. I do. My guides do help me. I don't know how I manage it really, getting everything. It just worked.
I don't know why. I'm just sort of seeing your team behind you sort of pushing you forward, you know, like saying, you know what to do,
Yeah.
you've got this, and there
And
you go.
I do, and I'm so like, I seem so confident, so determined, but actually I am. Um,
Well, I mean, you know, yeah, you might not have been this confident and determined when you were 16,
yeah.
but through all of your experience and all of your travel and what you've seen and what you know and what you hear and what you feel, all weave together to to bring solutions where you are. That's my feeling.
Oh, I hope so. I really love talking to you. No one's ever said this to me before, and it was a while ago. But I'm trying to do the same with my online courses. And every time I get bogged down in some boring bit of editing, I think, how can this help people? We have to focus on that. I need to get those anxiety courses out there. And
Yes.
it's really helpful information that you will not get anywhere else. It is neuroscience, it's talking about holographic phenomena, as we just said, not picking up on other people's stuff and fears, right?
Yeah.
Basic stuff like that. Mirror neurons, you know, they're amazing. That means that if I'm with you right now and you're smiling, my brain is actually going to fire. The neurons will fire like a smiling person's, even though I'm feeling depressed at the time. So, right? So who you're around really counts. And so, yeah,
Yes, it
so mirror
does.
neurons means my actual neurons in my brain are mimicking your face, which is really weird. It's
Oh,
not
that's a
your
good
energy,
thing.
it's your face. And they're thinking, oh, she's smiling, therefore the neurons work, although I was smiling.
That's I never knew about that. I'm not very
No,
scientific, so I know. I love
1992,
that.
1992, an Italian science discovered this. It's fairly new. But it's a social thing. It discovered it in monkeys, macaque monkeys. It's a social thing to enable them to get on with each other, as you can imagine. You
Hmm.
know, like I suppose if someone's looking threatening and violent, that will trigger neurons in their brain for the same reaction, which is social matching.
That's fascinating, and it's true. And when you're saying this, I'm like, oh my god! So all these examples are sort of running through my
Or
mind.
empathy. It is the science behind empathy, actually.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, Susan, we've got a couple of more
On that
minutes. This is your time. What haven't I brought up? What do you want the audience to know that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, nothing at all. I feel that I'm the light doctor, and my light gets involved in everything I do because it's what makes us tick. So in my medical intuition, it's the light feels connecting people. In my natural treatments of anxiety, it's working with Chinese medicine is lines of light. Indian chakras are centers of light. Okay, so and then the neuroscience, well, the brain is working on electromagnetic light signals. And so this is why I'm the light doctor, because this is how I view the world. I'm very happy also to do private consultations, usually um, about 8 o'clock at night American time. I only do a few, but I do them. And that's it, really. I just wish everyone a really fabulous day. And you.
Oh, thank you. This has been such a great conversation. I also want to remind people about, or the professionals, about your intuitive class, your medical intuitive
Oh, yeah, that's going to
development
be
class.
75% off. Don't buy it yet because it'll be 75% off in 2 weeks. I'm doing a big promotion. I'm giving a huge reduction. It's being reduced from 399 to something else. Must be 99, right? And something else. And then I'm giving my electromagnetic stress book, which is quite big and very, very good about how to protect against energies of Wi Fi, internet, computers, and a free video on how to sleep better.
Oh, I know a lot of people who could use that video on how to sleep better. Do you feel that this year energetically has brought more people with you for issues that maybe they weren't dealing with a year ago? Energetic issues. I think the energy has been really interesting this year.
I think I'm dealing with stuff I wasn't dealing with before. Yeah, yeah. I just think it's a good thing. It's always a good thing, isn't it?
Well,
When you have.
it's stepping stones to growth, right? So, when things break down, I was sharing my year with you and how all these broken parts, but they broke down for a reason. They broke down because they had a message for me. They broke down because, it's telling me you need to refocus on, this is your time to do that so you can put yourself back together again and be better than you were before.
What, which is be wonderful. Yeah, yeah. The body is perfect, actually, and I mean, it's too long conversation, but I do believe in visualizing as our wholeness and perfection. The body is perfect.
I love that, and it is perfect. Even though and if people hang on to their maladies, whatever they might be, where do you think that stems from?
Um, Habit. Look, what we're just creatures of habit. We have the same coffee every morning, sit in the same place on the bus, whatever. We're just creatures of habit, and we Change is threatening. You know that.
Yes.
That's why women stay with partners who are abusing them, because at least they're not dead yet.
Right.
Change is threatening. Change, it always could be worse, right? So you don't want to change.
It's true. People have a hard time changing. And for me, I love the fact that there's change, that everything is temporary. Because if you don't like what's happening, wait around because you're going to get a new flow of opportunities, which you can either take for the positive or stay in the muck. But that's a choice. And that's a whole nother conversation.
It is a choice, but that's a really nice point of view.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Dr. Susan Jamieson, thank you so much for being on the show. I am so grateful that you stay, I know it's what, 8 or 9 o'clock in Hong Kong?
It's 9 o'clock now. Yeah, at night. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so grateful that you, chose to spend your evening with us.
Oh, it's lovely to speak to you, and I hope I can talk to you again on this show.
And we will have you back because there's so much information and so many things to talk about. And I do feel that there's another book that you're going to be writing that you didn't know you were writing today. So I just have a feeling. I don't know what it means. So something that I either planted a seed or didn't. Those things. But thank you so much. And again, drsusanjameson.com. Check out her website, which is beautiful, by the way. Look at her classes, look at her workshops, and don't forget about the Celtic.
So it's not Dr. Susan Jamieson. That's my
Oh,
medical
sorry,
one.
Susan Jamieson.
The boring one. We want the interesting one. SusanJameson.com.
I apologize. SusanJameson.com. Check out her website and also check out her Facebook page, Celtic Light Healing. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, I've got. Well, that's my group. That's my group.
the
Actually,
group.
my page is like Dr. Sue Jamieson. I know it's a bit complicated. There's doctors here and there. And my Insta is Dr. Susan Jamieson as well. My Instagram.
Perfect. I love your teal glasses, or your aqua glasses. Those are so pretty. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And yes, we will be having you back on the show. I want to thank Bridget for all you do. You're my right hand, you're my left hand. Thank you so much. So grateful for it all. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your day, out of your life to be a part of the show. I do this show, I created this show with you in mind to bring you some of the most amazing metaphysicians like Dr. Susan Jamieson to share what they do, how they do it, how they can be of service to you on so many different levels. So I hope what Susan and I shared today resonates with you and you go check out her page. I would appreciate it if you like the show, like it, subscribe to it, and review it because I would love to hear your thoughts on each episode, but also who you might want to see on the show and what topics you might want. So thank you. As I sign off, as always, I send you love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, for not only are you my student, you are my teacher. And not only am I a teacher, I am your student. So thank you. And I'm going to say these 3 words to you. I love you. You are loved, not just by me, not just by your family, friends, colleagues, your community, but you have a plethora of beings on the other side of the veil that are your biggest cheerleaders, and they want to see you succeed. They want to see you live the life you're divinely meant to live. So talk to them. Ask them for what you need, want, and desire, so they can go out and start bringing it back to you. Here's the caveat. You need to be open to how it comes because it's not necessarily going to be very linear. It's very esoteric. Spirit has a sense of humor, and they're going to bring things to you in ways you never even thought you'd get a message. So be open and receptive to how things may come to you. And if by some chance things aren't happening in the time frame you're looking for, go inside, see if there's something you need to tweak to allow them to then bring to you what it is you need, want, and desired. Okay, I will see you next week. And as always, have the most incredible week. I love you. Stay well.